The escalation in the Middle East, where the fighting has intensified between Israel and Hezbollah. Top White House official John Kirby will join us in just a moment, but first, our chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is on the scene in Beirut. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, Michael. I think we've just witnessed one of the deadliest days in Lebanon, with massive widespread attacks by Israel against Hezbollah targets, effectively putting the two warring sides on the edge of the biggest war here in almost 20 years.
This morning, escalating fears of wider regional war in the Middle East, with Israel relentlessly pounding Lebanon, killing nearly 500 in just one day, including women and children, and wounding more than 1,600. It's been the deadliest day for Lebanon in decades. One explosion in southern Lebanon captured on dashcam. Israel attacking 1,600 sites across the country it says are being used by Hezbollah. The attacks unleashing a mass exodus, people fleeing their homes and villages, creating gridlock in southern Lebanon. Terrified families fleeing amid the bombardment. Israel preparing for what it calls the next phases of the war. And Prime Minister Netanyahu saying Israel's war is with Hezbollah and not Lebanon, urging people to leave their homes.
The IDF has warned you to get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously. Don't let Hezbollah endanger your lives and the lives of your loved ones.
The Iranian-backed militants firing rockets into northern Israel, declaring an open-ended battle. Hundreds of thousands of residents in Israel hiding in shelters. And this morning, Hezbollah again striking into Israel. The risk of this conflict spiraling out of control is now very real.
Well, guys, I think for now, at least, things appear a little quiet on this side of the border today, although the bombardment is carrying on. But I think in some senses, the ball is now in Hezbollah's court. I mean, it's barely tapped into its massive arsenal, and if it does, then the chances of being able to contain a wider war may be impossible. George?
Okay, and thanks very much. The U.S. is deploying additional troops to the region. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Redditz is in Israel with the details. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. The additional forces that the U.S. is sending here to the region are a special operations team, a small team, to help provide planning for a possible evacuation of American citizens if this war spirals out of control. And there are deep concerns that could happen. There are already 40,000 U.S. troops in the region, including a carrier strike group at sea. But there are tens of thousands of Americans now living in Lebanon and, of course, here in Israel as well. The State Department would make the determination whether to order an evacuation. But even before this intense round of Israeli bombing, the State Department warned Americans living in Lebanon to get out of the country while commercial travel was still available. That could become much more complicated, George, if the airports were hit. George?
Okay, Martha, thanks very much. Let's bring this to John Kirby, White House spokesman for the National Security Council. John, thank you for joining us this morning. We just heard Martha talk about the airports. We know in the past Israel has bombed the airports in Lebanon back in 2005. Do you expect it to happen again? Have you been given a heads up?
We're in constant touch with our Israeli counterparts, George, as you might imagine. We want to make sure that there are still commercial options available for Americans to leave, and they should be leaving now while those options are available, but I won't get ahead of operations.
You won't get ahead of operations. The United States has been trying very hard to prevent an escalation.
Absolutely.
Here. The president has been in constant contact with Israel, but they don't seem to be heeding his advice.
Again, I think we don't believe it's in Israel's interest for this to escalate, for there to be an all-out war there on the north, on that blue line between Israel and Lebanon. If the goal, George, is to get families back to their homes, we think there's a better way to do that than an all-out conflict. The Israelis will tell you yesterday that they had to take some of these strikes because they were about to be imminently attacked by Hezbollah. They do have a right to defend themselves. But what we're going to keep doing is talking to them about trying to find a diplomatic solution here, a way to de-escalate the tensions so that the families can go back in a sustainable way.
We just heard from Ian that the ball is now in Hezbollah's court. Israel bracing for a response this morning. Do we have any sense of what's going to come next?
I won't get into the intelligence assessment. Certainly, we have seen the rhetoric coming out of Nasrallah and his leadership about how they want to respond to this. That's obviously going to be something we'll monitor very, very closely. I will just tell you that while we won't get involved in the conflict itself there or around that blue line, because we don't want to see a conflict at all, we'll do what we have to continue to do to make sure Israel can defend itself.
Let's turn to the war in Ukraine. Robin spoke with President Zelensky and the First Lady of Ukraine yesterday. We're going to have more of that interview coming up later today. He seems to believe that peace is closer than we think if the United States and the Western allies continue to provide Ukraine with the assistance it needs.
He will continue to get that assistance. He's going to meet with the president Thursday back in Washington after the UN General Assembly concludes. And I fully expect that you'll hear the president talk about continued and additional support to Ukraine as we head into the fall and winter months, particularly as Mr. Putin tries to weaponize the winter weather, going after their energy grid and infrastructure. So President Zelensky can rest assured that he'll continue to have the United States support and the other 50-some-odd nations that are providing.
Are we seeing the outlines of a possible peace?
Well, look, President Zelensky said he's going to come with a victory plan. We haven't seen that plan. We look forward to talking to him about what this looks like, what the components are, and we'll see where it goes from there. What we've said all along, George, is whenever and however this war ends, it's got to end in a way that is in keeping with President Zelensky's view of what a just peace needs to look like. And it has to factor in the Ukrainian people's desires and aspirations. So whatever that is, again, we'll look forward to talking to him about that, but we'll be supportive as we move forward.
Finally, the president speaking to the United Nations today. What's his message?
Message is that, number one, we've accomplished a lot on the world stage in the United States over the last 3.5 years, but revitalized our alliances and partnerships, really advanced our national security interests around the world, working on transnational problems like climate change and clean energy transition, on fentanyl prevention. There's been an awful lot of work that the United States has done, and he's going to make the case for why it's important for America to continue to lead and why we have to all work together, the whole United Nations, to try to really make these changes sustainable and enduring for the long term.
John Kirby, thanks as always.
Thank you.